So this time we will try to demo and solve Boss of the SOC version 2 for another round of Splunk. So are you ready? So challenge details are as below. So we will deal again with an APT scenario, how to investigate it. So here are the following hunting scenarios that we will go over as we solve the questions. And these are just some graphics regarding the challenge and some details. So I will not deep dive on those. And we'll start with the first question. A bonus question. So like all Splunk challenges, the bonus is common. Number one question is really, what software are we using? What SIEM software? So since a bonus, obviously the answer is Splunk. Okay, next question. We are asked to find the website domain that Amber 2 visited. So for this, we need first to get the IP of Amber's machine. So do a query of bots bot query. Let's take out the sampling. And from the source type, we can see pan traffic firewall. So we can use this. Then we can check the source IP. Source. So this is the IP of Amber's machine. So let's add to our query. And this time, since we will be using the HTTP, stream HTTP. Stream, since we are looking for the website. Okay. Let's wait for it to load. Oh. Wait. Oh, no results found, sorry. Let's remove Amber, since we already know her IP address. There. Then the results will be on the site page. So let's do a deduplicate. Dedupe and table. Okay. Actually, we can tune this further to remove the legit sites like the Microsoft, Windows Update. And these are the quite unknown or uncommon domains. So you can try all of this. But the correct answer really will be this one. So, okay, let's move to number 3. So we are asked to find the CEO name on the email sent by Amber. So provide the first and last name. So this is the answer. So to find this, let us first search for SMTP events for email address info of Amber. So this is our first query. And in the results, we can see something like this, sender email. So this is Amber's email. So let's add this email in our query, searching both sender and recipient. So to search both correspondence. So prepare the query already. So this one. So it's search for SMTP again, and then we both search the sender and the receiver, where Amber's email is the value for both. Okay, so enter. Okay, so here you can do a control F, search for beer. Oh, forgot, let's show the raw as well. Show raw text. Search. You can see something like let's try Amber. Oh, let's begin from the top. Important events. Just bear with me. So okay, and let's just search Martin. So there, Martin Burke. As you notice, he has a signature CEO. So this is the message from Martin Burke. Okay, for the next question, we are asked to find another employee email address from Burke Beer. So we'll just use the same query and look for strings of Burke Beer. Oh. So of course, we already know M. Burke is the CEO. So if we find another one, so most likely that's the other employee by way of deduction. And this one, we found it. H. Bernard at Burke Beer. Okay. Okay, next we have to find the file attachment that Amber sent to a contact at the competitor. This is the actual answer, so to find it, okay, let us add Bernard's email to the query we had before. So have here the query. So as you can notice, just the same but we just added Bernard's email. So that, and the answer can be found in the attached file name field. So there's your answer. Okay, next we need to find Amber's personal email address. So how do we find this? Okay, let's search again for the SMTP events. Actually have this query. So as you notice here, we will just search for sender email containing Amber's address. So then on the results, we can actually see the raw text. This one, we can actually see the base64. This one, starting with this, the base64 encoded message body. So what we need to do is copy those up to the end of the base64 string. Where is the end? Just be sure to copy it completely so you won't have any problems decoding it. Okay, I'm having a hard time finding the end. Okay, this is still base64. Okay, that's quite long. Goes and nose. Okay, so I think the end is right here. Okay, so as you can see here, we can see some readable strings already. And there's still not much readable from below. That's weird. Okay, let's try to copy that. Let's do a search. Think okay. Think I've copied it wrong. A64. Wait. Yeah, I copied it wrong. It should be until this one only. Okay, this is not good. Okay, let me just check. We'll need to expand the raw for each, since these are just 3 events. Expand the raw. Expand the raw. And expand the raw. Okay, I'll just search for Okay. Okay, let's try that again. So let's try to copy starting from this to okay, I'm having a hard time with this. Okay, let's try up to this. Okay, so let's see if we can finally caught the email. Oh yeah, so here we can see Amber's the best at yeastybeastie.com. The decoding seems skewed, but can make sense of it. So since this is truncated, we caught the rest on this one. Okay. Okay, next question. We are to look for the version of Tor that Amber installed. Yeah, to obfuscate her web browsing. So we will just use a very simple query for this. So Amber, try generic keywords related to the question. So we just have around 100 events, so that's a lot. But as you can see here, we can already see that she downloaded a Tor browser install, and here's the version 7.04. Okay, so for this one, number 8, so we need to find the public IP address of this web server where we talk. So to do that, we'll focus more on the DNS events. So I actually have here the query. So as you can see, put in the domain of the web server and limit it on the DNS events. Okay, as with the DNS, we can usually found it if you are familiar with DNS. If you request a domain, it will return an IP address, right? But while the reverse DNS is if we request an IP, it will return a domain. So this one, the answer is the IP. There's your answer. Okay, the next question, we are to look for the public IP address. Oh, sorry. We are to look for the IP address of the system that's running web vulnerability scan against brewertalk.com. So to do that, we'll just modify our query a bit. So instead of looking through DNS, we will now look on the HTTP events. Since we know that web vulnerability scanning is oftentimes very noisy, we can often catch that scanner will always have the most number of requests. So obviously, this one is way too noisy not to be noticed. So that's your answer. Okay, so for the next, we need to find the Uri Path being attacked by the web vulnerability scanner. So this is the answer. So to find this, we will just add the source IP of the attacker to our query. So Let's just click on this. So now the requests are limited to the source IP. Now find the answer. So as you can see here, the Uri Path member.php has the most requests, meaning it's the one being exploited by the web vulnerability scanner. Okay, next we are asked what's the SQL function being abused on the Uri Path from question 10. So for this, we will now add the Uri Path in our query. So in order to narrow down the results. And we'll inspect the form data where the request, where we can see more about the request being sent. Also involves it also captures the commands. So if there's an SQL injection commands, we can also see in the form data field. Okay, so as you can see here, you can see some SQL commands, but we are being asked what's the function, what SQL function. And if you notice, most contained update XML function. Okay, so for the next one, this is quite technical, so we are to look for the Frank Esther's password salt value. So this is the actual answer. So to find that, you can reuse the previous query, but this time, after prepare the query, this time we will add salt keyword, an expat, and the syntax error to really narrow down what we are looking for. So, which is the salt. So notice on the very first event, on the destination content, we can see, let's search for the expat, sorry, do a control F and the expat. So there, you can see here, expat syntax error, 8 characters. Then on the next, if we iterate this expat, you can see this is the 8 characters salt value. Then if we iterate this on the next occurrence, it will give then the other salt value for the other accounts. So this one, and so forth and so on. Okay. Okay, so next one, we are now to look for user BTUN's password on BuWordTalk. So again, we can rebuild from our previous query, but this time, this time we'll just add Bitun user here. Okay. Okay, we'll again search for the expat. We can see user Bitun and actual email address. Okay, so given this, let's look around. So on the first event, okay, since this is 816, okay, let's do a date time range. So 8 between 816 2017. Okay, let's see. 1924 40. Okay, and then the other 25. So let's just say 32. Apply. And let's remove, since we are looking around the events. So let's remove the tune. Okay. Source type HTTP. What is it? That syntax. Okay, so now we have results. Let's fix the time range. Then let's do a control F again and expat. So again, we are looking for Bitun's password, right? So this is not the user. So a few iterations down, you could see. Okay, so this, you notice this is the salt hash of Bitun a while ago on the previous question. Next, we have here the 32 keyword. And if you are keen, 32 keyword is common for MD5 hash. So next, a few iterations down, you can actually see okay, where is it? Bitun. Oh, there, it's Bitun. So there. So here, actual password hash of Bitun's account. But the thing is, as you can see here, the query only fetches the 31 character. So let's save this for now. Oh, I forgot the first. If we iterate this further, we can see that the SQL fetches the 32nd character of the hash on the next iteration, which is letter or number 4 rather. So the complete hash is, and we can try breaking it using either a Kali Linux, using a Linux hashcat tool to break this MD5 hash, or For simplicity's sake, I'll just use an online tool called cmd5.org. So here it does the same job as with any MD5 hash cracker tool. So you can select actually MD5 salt. MD5 salt. Try to decrypt. And there's your answer. The MD5 decrypted hash will result to a password of 12345. Okay, so next we have to look for the characters displayed by the XSS robe. So if you are familiar with XSS, the common payloads involves script. So script keyword. Okay, script tags to be precise. So then we will focus on the form data field, which contains the actual request or the payload. So for that, I prepared a query here. So as you can see here, we'll focus on the HTTP stream with the keyword of script, commonly used for XSS payloads. Then we'll just dedupe it in table, output it on a table. So we'll focus on the form data. We'll remove the sampling. Sorry. Okay, we have 3 events, and notice they are URL encoded. So we have to URL decode them. So to do that, let's add eval coded URL decode on data table. Then replace it with the decoded data. Okay, now it's decoded, so let's search for that payload. So as you can see here, the payload is this one. That's your answer. Remove the code. Okay, next, we will find the value of the cookie that Kevin's browser transmitted to the malicious URL as part of the XSS attack. So, to do this, you can reuse the previous query, but modify it and add the Kevin keyword. So, I actually prepared it here. So, basically use the same query, but now we add the Kevin. Okay, it only returned one event, and it's actually aggregated here and parsed on a cookie field. So this is actually the answer. 150.240.81. Okay, so next we will deal with the Csrf. So we are to look for the value of the anti-Csrf token stolen from Kevin's computer and was used to help create an authorized admin user. on brewertalk.com. So to do this, we must have a background on what a CSRF token is. So based from this reference from Ports figure, so this is how a CSRF token looks like. So input type hidden with the name CSRF token and the actual value. So this is what we are going to look for. So we can actually use the previous query we have, and from here we can pivot plus minus 5 seconds, and we can remove the cabin part to see all the XSS probes. Okay. And next to that, we'll actually add the hidden part, input type hidden in a query. That gives us 2 events. Okay, since we know how that CSRF token looks like, let's search for the word hidden. As you can see, this is the actual CSRF token. And we are to use it on our query. Let's use that in our query to find the unauthorized user created. So as you can see here, I just put here the token. And as you can see here, the unauthorized user created is Clagger field with a password of, as you can see here, there's a password and confirm password. Okay, so the answer is this one. And question 17 actually a follow-up. What username is maliciously created? This is spear phishing attack, so we already found that. It's also actually Clagger field. Okay, so for next, we are to find the episode of Game of Thrones, which Mallory is excited to watch. So, I actually prepared the query here. Mallory GOT. So this is just a broad search term. Okay, let's bring back the time, date range, presets all time. Okay, and as you can see here, we can actually look at the attached file name field. We see here GOT Season 7 Episode 2. And if we search that on a Google, it's actually Stormborn is the name of the episode. And that is our answer. Okay, so next, this is the question. So we are asked what protocol often used for file transfer. this is actually responsible for the traffic. So as you can notice, there are numbers skipped here, there are questions removed, and I happen to have the previous questions. So this one, there's a previous question in which the IP of the suspect attacker is this one. So we can actually use that in our query. And as you can see here, we can already see what suspicious protocol is being used. It's also aggregated here or parsed here in the app field BitTorrent. Okay, next up, we are to look for the time in PDT. So where this event happened, when Mallory's MacBook gets encrypted by ransomware on August 18. Okay, so this is the output of the answer we are looking for. So there's a note here, do not use Splunk's index time. Okay, so to do that, let us filter first documents and PowerPoint files in chronological order. So I have here the query. You can see here we are looking for some documents with a PPT or PPTX extension. And we are using the reverse to sort them in chronological order. So that. Okay, so as you can see, this is now sorted in chronological order. So we have to show the raw file. See, you can see the raw file and focus on the raw event with attributes modified. So you can see here this deleted, created. This one is attributes modified, and we have to focus specifically on the C time. So this one. So now we have got the actual time. Okay, since this is a Unix time, we have to use a converter. So you can use an online tool like Epoch Converter. So just simply paste it. We have here August 18, 2017 at 9:50, 22 seconds. But the question is, it's looking for the time in PDT. So remember, Splunk uses UTC by default, and PDT is 7 hours behind from UTC. So let's just subtract 7 hours from this and write it in military format. So if we subtract 7 hours, so this is actually 9:15, 2:50 p.m. So 2:50 p.m. is 14:50 in military time. So the answer will be 14:50:22. Okay, so next, we are to find the seconds elapsed when the ransomware executable was written on McClory Air 13 and the first local file encryption. So first, we have to check for the occurrence of the occurrence of encryption on McClory's machine. So our query will be something like this, sorted in chronological order. So the first occurrence is on, okay, let's do a list, 950. So this is the first occurrence, okay. Next we pivot around 5 minutes before, check for an execution. So let's pivot around 5 minutes. We apply, and we have to check since the execution, we're looking for execution, we will check for that app instead. So that app is the executable for Mac machines, Mac OS machines. So let's check the raw. So as you can notice here, on the second event, you can actually see this one. Something suspicious was downloaded on McLaurin's machine, named Office 2016 Patcher.app. Okay, so the actual time is this one, UTC, August 18, 21:48. So 9:48 and 9:50. So take the difference of those, and we'll have around 132 minutes, 132 seconds. Okay, okay, so next we are to deal with the USB drive. So question is provide the vendor name of the USB drive Kevin likely used. So okay, so first we'll search for host and the USB. So I have here the query. Okay, cute kitten. So cute kitten is taken in here. That's just use it in our search query as well. Oh, sorry. Let's bring it to all time. Okay, since we have around 40 events, let's remove or exclude the common unrelated events like Apple USB, action remove. I'm prepared here the query already. So notice here we have removed unrelated events. Okay, now we are down to 12 events. So for these 12 events, we can actually search for the vendor ID. Vendor ID, we can look it up using tools like this one, the sc.com. So if we search here, this vendor ID resolves to Patriot. So we can try it out. Nope, it's not the answer. And notice here, there's another vendor ID. Way up to that one, let's try that. Okay, it's Alcor. So let's try Alcor. Okay, so next we are to look for the programming language so which the malware is written in. So to do that, let's first search for the downloaded items on that machine. So I have here the query kitten and downloads. So I actually executed it already, and as you can see here, the hash is also shown with the events. So let's try to take the SHA-256 of that file and search it on VirusTotal. As you can see, it's actually pretty malicious. And to find, it's already also there's already a tagging here saying it's Perl. So we know it's a programming language. You can also see here the behavior files open. So it's actually using lots of Perl library, which confirms that this malware is written in Perl. Okay, so next we are asked what is the specific process name in the process table when it is running. So what process does this malware use? Okay, so based from here, we need to use our pivoting or research skill, OSINT skills. So search on BD. Actually found this article detailing the malware behavior, and this malware is actually running as where is it? Yeah, it's actually running as Java. So yeah, since I happen to observe this already, so as you can see here, it uses the Java process. Yeah, which can trick tools such as PS, since this is a legitimate process. And if we use it on our query, you can actually see more details about it. Okay. You can see it on below event. But in Java. Yeah, you can see it here, Java. It's just Java and it's actually the path. So there's your answer. So it's Java. And next up, still related to the malware. So we're asked to find the CNC servers to which it connects outbound to. So we're asked to look for the FQDN. So this is actually the hash we searched earlier. So we will use hybrid analysis results. We actually find here two DNS requests, and these are actually the answers. So dns.org. And the next question is actually asking for the other CNC server, which is this one. Okay. Okay, there's your answer. And for the next question, sadly I haven't answered this because the Alexa 1 million rank is no longer available for download. So let's park this. Okay, so next question is quite tough. I haven't been able to complete this because the file is no longer hosted, but nonetheless I will walk you through how do I found this JPEG file with 8 character file names, so, which is encrypted by the ransomware. So to do that, Let's first search for this one. Let's search for JPEG files and Sysmon events. So from here, we can actually see here JPEG files being encrypted by the ransomware. It appends that crypt extension. And the question is, we are to look for JPEG files on Kevin Lagerfeld server's home directory. So, but first, let's actually this is already parsed in the target file name. Here the path with the file name. So let's get the length for those. So to do that, okay, since we are to look for Kevin Lager's home directory, so this is actually the path, and just some basic deduction. So this one already contains, sorry, or I pressed the wrong button. This is already 41 characters, right? So, so not including the extension, we'll calculate this as well. Okay, so this is totally 51. So if we are to look for 8 characters, we just look for those 59 character length. And sort this, we actually have 2 candidates, which are 8 character file names. So as you can see here, this is the first file, the second file. But unfortunately, if we browse the Splunk website as given in the instruction, the file is no longer hosted. See, it's been removed by Splunk, so we can no longer decrypt it. So if you guys know the answer, please feel free to share. Okay, stick with the next file. Let's forget. Okay, so next we are to look for pure phishing attachment containing zip files. So to do that, we'll search for SMTP events and the attachment, hoping to find one with the zip extension. So this will be our query. We'll look in the SMTP events and we'll count the attached file name. So that. Okay, took a while to load, but notice here there's only one attachment with zip extension. So this is actually the answer. Okay, so next we are to find the SSL issuer that the Taidonggang APT group use for the majority of their traffic. Okay, so to do that, from our previous question, if you notice or if you are familiar with AB, usually we will get a malware alert text for the emails that have malicious attachment. So for emails as a malicious attachment, commonly the AB strips them in the attachment and replaces them with this text. So let's just wait for the search to complete. I'll remove the sampling. And from here, we can search the sender. Who's the malicious sender? It's actually in the field sender email, this one. And then we can now replace our query. Let's add that malicious sender. Okay, so from here, you can actually see the content field. So here, as you can see here, the subject is invoice, and you can actually see the exact email contents that is base64. I'm sorry, the actual attachment content in base64 format. So in this case, the invoice.zip complete content was base64 encoded. So here's that data. So we can actually copy this. Copy this whole and up to this. So I have here my Linux machine. So let's create a file, invoice.txt, nano. Okay, save that. Save the file. Okay, let's try to see if okay, how about tail? If we have pasted completely. Okay. Then we have to, as we know, base64 should have no spaces or lines in between. So we have to remove that extra line. Using this command, meaning we'll remove the new line breaks and we'll output it to a new file. Okay, so let's just see the content of that new file. Okay, as you can see, the line breaks were removed, but the problem is there are still extra spaces, so we cannot decode this properly. So we have to clean it up further. Okay. So I'll just clean it up. I'll just pause the video. So okay, so I just finished cleaning it up. So as you can notice here, no more extra spaces. So the whole base64 is now combined into one string without space. The next thing is to now decode this and output it to a zip file. So to do that, just do that text base64 decode invoice.zip. Sorry, dash decode. Okay, so we have the zip file. And if we'll check invoice.zip, noticed it's a archive data. So we can now unzip it, unzip, and the password is the one in the email. So here it was given on the email. Let's read that again. Content, this one. It's 9 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay. 9 1 2 3 4. Okay. Now we have extracted the invoice.doc. Okay. And we can now actually get the hash of it. 5 some invoice.doc. Look it up on virus portal. So you see, this is a pretty much malicious file, and on the relations, you can actually see the IP, the related IP, and on the IP details, you can actually see the certificate issuer. So it's right here. This is actually the answer. Okay. Okay, next, we are to look for the IP address that the both workstation have a connection with. Actually, in the hint, we are told to check the incident review dashboard, but since we don't have access to it in this instance, so this is a bonus question. And I happen to know the answer by Googling it. So this is actually the answer. I will move on to the next. 34. What domain of interest is associated with that IP? So we will use that in our query. Okay. Prepare the query here. Okay, so we will look into the DNS events. I let it load. And you can actually see the domain name in the name field. It's actually here. This one, hildegardswarm.com. So this is our answer. Okay, next, we are asked what unusual file for an American company. So this is actually a clue. The swinsys32.dll cost to be downloaded in the fraudly environment. So let's use this in our query. So our query will be this, sorted in chronological order. So let's try that. Now in the output, we can actually see process command line. So to a list. As you can see here, ftp-exe is the one used to download the DLL. So now, let's check the methods used. Method. FTP. Okay, so method. So why is it? Oh, sorry. Let's now check for the FTP events. Source type. Stream. FTP. And as we can see in the method, here are the FTP methods, and if you're familiar or if you Google these methods, the one used for download or file retrieval is this method. So let's use this in our query. And we can check now the aggregated files. So here are the files downloaded using that method. And based from the question, what's the unusual file given this is an American company? So we notice here a Chinese character file .hwt extension was downloaded. So this is actually our answer. Okay, next, we are asked to find the first and last name of the poor innocent SAP who was implicated in the metadata of the file that executed the PowerShell on the victim's workstation. So remember the invoice.doc we found earlier? Let's just, okay, we actually check the metadata of it right here. And this is the one implicated. So Ryan Kovar. So this is actually the answer. Okay, so the next one is a quite difficult. So we are asked to find the average Shannon entropy of the subdomain containing the UDP exfiltrated data. So when we talk about entropy, it's the level of randomness or chaos. So just for finding anomaly, really. So to do that, let's first search DNS events. So as you can see here, I prepared the query searching for DNS. Then we'll do a stats count by destination IP. Okay, and sorting it based on count. So based from this, we can see mostly we have to sort it by count, by descending order, and you can see here, okay, so just common, these are the two unusual external IPs. Now let's add this to our query. So I actually prepared it already. Let's use that as our destination IP. Okay, so this is the next step. Okay, and as you can see, this is our suspect domain, and as you can see, it has seemingly random subdomains that are varying greatly. We seem to be in the right track. Now, next, let's parse the subdomain in order to calculate the entropy or the degree of randomness for these subdomains. So to do that, I already prepared here the query with the parser. So we still use these IPs as destination IP. And we now parse the subdomain using this regex. And we'll just output it using the table containing the destination IP and the subdomain. So let's try that. As you can see, the subdomain is already parsed separately. And now we have to calculate the entropy using this guide from Splunk. So lots of details. So it details there how. So this is the actual query. So forth and so on. So take note of this link. This one. And then going back, I've already prepared the query. So as you can notice, just added it right here and then get the average destination IP. Okay, and the answer is 3.6. Okay, next we are to look for the scheduled task that the APT used to beacon back to their C2 server. So the question here is, what single web page is most contacted by these scheduled tasks? So remove the path and just looking for something like this, index.php or images.html. So to do that, we are to look for the sysmon events. So I prepared the query. So here we are looking for the sysmon events, and then with the command line of the scheduled task.exe. Then we'll table it using its host, command line, and parameters. Let's remove the sampling. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of legitimate scheduled tasks here. So we have to tune this further. We need to exclude the Microsoft ones, the legitimate ones, the ones related to Microsoft Office and Windows. So we actually have the fine-tune script here. As you can see, we are excluding those with program files, common files, Microsoft, and let's see if we have narrowed it down further. Oh, so there are around 5 events left compared to the 33 before. So okay, let's see. It's still loading. Oh, still loading. Actually, around 15 results. So below we can see here something like an encoded command. Notice the encoded parent command line, base64. So this is quite long. And then if we will use the hint, you can actually see in the hint, it says here we are to use the source type win registry in our query as well. Then we have to decode. So okay, so again can actually narrow it down further using the hint. And as you can see, we are left with 4 events. Okay, and on these 4 events, you can see here the data, the encoded the data section. There's an encoded string, so we can decode this. Okay, actually all SIEMs have the same content, same base64 content. If you would notice, as you can see, they are all the same. So we will decode this. Okay, this is a little bit different. Okay, let's try to decode this. Go. Okay, what happened? Okay, this seems readable, unreadable, but let's try the other one. This one. Oh, sorry. Well, let's use Chef. From base64, then okay, you can see it's been decoded, and then find and replace. Let's use a find and replace here. Find dot replace with, sorry, okay, replace with login. You could actually see here admin get php /admin. As you can see here, there are still unclaimed extra dots, but we can read it anyway. So this is admin get php. So we could try slash get.php. Okay. But it's not the answer. So let's try the other one. Login. You can see here login / process.php. Okay, let's try that. Process.php. And we got the answer. So this is the path being accessed by the scam. Okay, next we are to look for the IPv4 address of that APT controlled server that has a completely different Parse octet to the other controlled infrastructure. So we are looking for the IP address. So we can actually use Census to look up SSL hash certificate. But the thing is, Census seems to have removed, as you can see here, you can use, okay, let's go back. If we do, okay, I'll show you first the solution. So we could actually query here the hash of the certificate. So this is the APT infrastructure, and the value of the SSL cert hash is actually cert 25 stored here. So we can see, we can actually get the hash, look it up. Look it up using the certificate hash lookup. But the thing is, this is already expired and there are no longer related hosts showing up. So you cannot really find anymore unless you know other hash lookup websites that has more historical data, then you can find the answer. But fortunately, we have known the answer through other means by Googling, and we have here the actual answer. So okay, next, since this is a little bit difficult, so we are to find how many bytes were successfully transferred by the APT. So we are to use the 1024 for byte conversion. So first, let us inspect first FTP stream. So we are to use this one first. So method store is used for upload. So we have 711 events. Actually see in the reply content something like this. File successfully reply, something like this. File successfully transferred. Meaning we are specifically looking for events that has this content. Meaning there are successful upload event that happened. So next, let's inspect who are attempting multiple uploads by their flow ID. So let's determine who, and based from this, we can see this is the flow ID that is most likely suspect for data exfiltration due to the many count. Okay, so and then as mentioned earlier, we need to find the successfully transferred string to narrow our search further. So we'll do a search like this. So in here, notice we added this one to limit our search, and then we table it. So here you can see the actual duration and the actual bytes transferred or uploaded. So now we need to parse the actual size in order for us to add it or to sum it up later in order to calculate the total bytes. So we have here the actual regex file, regex query, I mean. So here we are parsing the actual period and the actual speed, the actual size, and outputting it in a table. Okay. Version size, so okay. Okay, why doesn't seem to work? Hey, what happened? Okay, for a while. Let me fix this. Okay, I think I have doubled the table query, so I fix it. You can see it's now correctly parsing the period, the speed, and the size. And then we need to add up all of those and aggregate per flow ID. So prepare the query here. Okay. As you can see here, remember this is the flow ID. This is suspect earlier. So the total is this one, but fortunately this is not the actual answer. The correct batch answer is 139. This is one. Okay, this is 1.38 MB, but the correct answer is 1.39 MB. We're off by 1 MB, but you know. Okay, so next we are to find the session identifier assigned to this email when visiting the frontless store for the first time. Okay, so cookie session identifier. So we are to look for HTTP events. So okay, let's go back to Splunk and I'll prepare the query. So notice here we are looking for HTTP events and using the email in question. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Okay, let's use this one to table the cookie. Notice the cookie is URL encoded. So in order to make sense of it, we need to decode it. Okay, so in order to decode it, notice here we are using the eval function, then assigning it to variable and using the URL decode function in order to URL decode the cookie value and then outputting it on a table so that we will have this result. Here you can notice the actual cookie will be stored here, the form key. Notice it has the same value. So this is the session value. Let's try. Okay, so next, how many unique user IDs are associated with a grand total order of $1,000 or more? So we need to group the orders per session to get unique user count. And so let's try. Retrieve the query. So notice here we're looking for HTTP events with this string in the destination content. So this is based on the hint, and we have a lot. So here observe the aggregated URL. Okay, where's the URL? Oh, so this is the most probable URL when ordering. So the checkout. So let's use this. Add up in our query, and we are down with 148 events. Then we need to table it out so we could see clearly. So notice on the destination content, we'll search the word total. Okay, something's wrong. Okay. Okay, so we search for total. Notice here, you can see the grand total. So here we have $100 USD. So we need to parse this so that we can filter the orders exceeding $1,000. So okay, let's prepare here the query to do that. So try again. This will work. Oh, let's remove the sampling. As you can see, we have 8 results. Okay, so does this mean the 8 unique users? Remember, a user could have 1 or 2 or more orders that exceeds 1K, so not necessarily there. So we need to group them further by data session or user session. Okay, so let's grab those 8 session IDs and add this to our query. So our next query would be okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, for a while. To get the session ID for this 8 events, so to do that, let's parse the session ID first. Okay. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so the next would be actually to get the session ID from the cookie. So we actually prepared here a query wherein we will parse the session ID from the cookie and then we table it out. So notice this is still the 8 events that contains a grand total of greater than 100K. And to really compare if the users are the same, because users could relog in and acquire a new cookie session. So in order to really count or detect how many users are unique, so we'll actually use all the session IDs in our query. So notice here, the session IDs are just added to our query and we have modified the URL to the login. So the login is the one that takes the takes the input form data. So you'll see. Okay, now we have the username raw in the form data field. So as you can see here, there are 1, 2, 3. Are they all unique? This 8, but this Spritz May is a duplicate of this one, meaning there are only 7 unique users. Okay, next, which user identified by their email edited their profile before placing an order. Provide the user ID. So if we look on the hint, it will give us the URI to search. So this one. So we could actually use it in our query. Then we could check in the form data the actual email or the user used. So notice here it's bkild care yahoo.com. Actually, this is not at Yahoo because if you'll recall on our previous question, this is actually the user. Not at Yahoo, but it's at yandex.com. So let's try that. Next, what street address was used most often as the shipping address across multiple accounts when the billing address does not match the shipping address? So this is actually a difficult one. So let's see all the hints. We are to look for the SRC content field. Okay. So to do that, I'll actually have here. We are looking for the SRC content. Okay, actually if you'll see here, this is the query. So you can see here in the SRC content. Oh, never mind the street. It's not yet parsed. Okay, the shipping and the billing. So the answer is looking for the billing address that does not match the shipping address. So you actually need to parse the shipping and the billing separately, but I didn't manage to do that to answer this. So if you know how, so you share. So okay, so I will leave this for now. Next, what is the domain name used in email address by someone creating multiple accounts on the Plotly Store website? That appear to have machine-generated usernames. So this one we will deal with the entropy again, but this time on the username level, not on the domain. So to do that, let's first search for HTTP events on this URL and we'll duplicate it. Okay, we need to parse the username and the domain in order to calculate the entropy for the username later. So that, prepare the query here. So this will parse the username and the domain and the password. So okay, that's the job. Okay, next we'll calculate the entropy for the username and do a stats average on it. See here, as mentioned, we will calculate the entropy for the username, not the domain, and we average it by the domain to see which domain are generating random usernames. Okay, for it to load. Okay, as you can see, the most domains with random generated username is elude.in. So let's try that. Okay, next. Which user ID experienced the most logins to their account from different IP addresses and user agent combinations? Okay, so let's reuse the previous query here, but this time we will check or the HTTP user agent count by user need. Okay, and then sort the count descending. Okay, this is the actual username we're looking for. Next, what's the most popular coupon code being used successfully on the site? Okay, let's do a broad search on the HTTP events. Okay, coupon notice on the destination content. We can actually see if the coupon code is valid or not. So, okay, so let's table it out so we could see clearly. Let's table out the destination content. Okay, let's actually find something that is not invalid. So notice here, has a valid destination, it's a valid coupon code. So true. So let's search for the one with true. Destination content equals true. Okay, let's add that in our query. Notice we only have 3 events and all the coupon codes used are the same. So have several user accounts sharing common passwords are usually precursor to undesirable scenario illustrated by a poster. So we're asked which password is seen most often across users logging in to the store.faultly. Okay, so we can actually use the previous query we have wherein this one searching for HTTP events and then this URL wherein the actual login happened. Then we will parse the username and the password and we'll do a stats by password, count by password to see which is the commonly used password. We need to sort it descending. Let's just wait for it. Okay, this is used 5 times. And you can see this is the mostly used password out of the 191 events. That's our answer. Okay. Next, which HTML page was most clicked by users before landing into this URL on August 19th? So use earliest, so we will add this in our query. Okay, to do that, okay, we added this to limit our research based on time frame, and then we will count the HTTP referrer. Okay, so since we are looking for, okay, let's sort the count first. So this is definitely not the answer because this is the home page and this is the checkout link, and the third one is actually a product. So this is the most checked out product based on the stats. So we can, oh sorry, we will need to actually paste the whole URL. And we are down to our last question. So which HTTP user agent is associated with a fraudster who appears to be gaming the site by unsuccessfully testing multiple coupon codes? So this would be our query, looking into the HTTP, and then the method used to actually use the coupon is a put. Okay, and remember in earlier questions, valid coupon has a destination content value of true, so we'll just negate it to see the invalid attempts. Then it actually check the HTTP user agent aggregated, and as you can see, this is the mostly used user agent with invalid attempts. So this is the answer. Okay, congrats. So we have completed it, but there are some items we failed to answer. I think it's just two. So hope you enjoy.